Hey lovers, welcome to another exciting episode of Straight Talk New York. I'm your host, Ere Sonia. Before I commence fully, I'd like to thank our global community for the love, support, follows, for the likes, for having to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for all that you do for this podcast. Now, without further ado, let's go into the episode for the day. I have with me in the studio someone that is an exceptional personality. I say so because he's been doing great things in his industry, and a research into his background wowed me because I realized that he's so many things. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like you to meet our guest, Mr. Modestus Diko. Thank you for being on Straight Talk.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
I know how tight your schedule can be, but you still made out time for us, and it shows how much you appreciate what we do here. It's been a couple of correspondences here and there just to get you on the show, so thank you so much.
It's my pleasure.
I researched into your profile and I saw that you have quite an array of pursuits. You are a brand strategist, you're a model, you're a poet, you're so many things. So I'd like you to tell us a bit about your background and your journey to being an author specifically.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much once again. I really appreciate, coming to your podcast. First of all, I would like to say, being a writer, being a model, being a brand strategist, the aspect of everything I do is storytelling. As a model, as a brand strategist, and the rest, I try to tell stories in every aspect of my career. Everything started way back in secondary school. Then we had a magazine called Comlac Star. Every year there is a magazine that is being published. And for 6 years, I wrote in about 4 editions. And I was writing in stories, poetry, and I was part of the press club. So that was where it all started. This is about 20 years now, down the line. And after that, I started writing for National Mirror. That was in 2007, straight from the arts. Then in 2009, I started writing for the Nation newspaper. I was a correspondent then. I wrote for 7 years.
Wow.
Then school, we had this magazine called OE Vanguard. I was the publisher of the magazine as well. Like I say, most times your talents make way for you. So it's, I was using my talents to create ways for myself. Before 2015, I served in Lagos State Ministry of Information and Strategy.
Okay.
And I was able to understand so many things about information, strategy. In 2015, I put up this brand called NWA, Nigerian Writers Awards. It was quite different because I was able to gather people from different genres: sports, entertainment, fiction, non-fiction, about 15 or 20 categories then, to celebrate them. I created an avenue where young writers could be able to see those writers that they always look up to. Because whenever we have these events, established writers attend. It was an event to, come see your favorites, see your mentors, come network, basically. One good thing about that event was that a lot of people had global recognition. And we had people who were flying from the diaspora, UK, US, coming down to Nigeria for that event. 2015, 2016, 2017, we had these, events consistently. Our first edition, second edition, third edition had about 15 media houses partners. It was viewed on, it was on channels, MITV, TVC, different top media houses.
From what you've explained, you've had this passion for writing, you've had this passion for the arts, and I'm just amazed understanding that you founded Nigerian Writers Awards.
Yeah.
It's a bold step to take. And I think that explains how you've loved writing for the longest, which also brings us to your book. Let me just begin by saying congratulations on the launch of your latest book, Cracking the Diaspora Code. Would like to know what inspired you to write such a comprehensive guide, and what do you hope readers will be able to take from that book?
Thank you very much. I'd like to say Cracking the Diaspora Code is actually my third book. I've written 2 books previously.
That's to say you've been in this business for a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming.
That kind of explains why the book is a good one, because it will only come from a place of experience for a book that is knowledge paths like that. Let's go back to our question. What really inspired you to write Cracking the Diaspora Code, and what do you hope readers can take from it?
Okay, so writing Cracking Diaspora Code, it came from, I've worked with several entrepreneurs over the years, and most of the clients I've worked with in the last 3-4 years, they've traveled to the diaspora, some in the UK, some in the US, some UAE, and most times, most of them, send me messages that their brand is not really going on too well. So I saw this gap. They were doing so well in Africa, but when it came to the diaspora, it was quite difficult for them. And one thing most people don't know is that the strategy that works in Africa or in Nigeria won't be the same thing that's going to work in the diaspora, because there's cultural differences, there's emotions, there's pain points, there's spending habits. All these things were the things I saw. Then I did the research. That was where I was able to put all these strategies together. And from experience, academic and professional levels too, I was able to put all these things together for the entrepreneurs.
That's amazing. You mentioned it was after you had conversations with entrepreneurs, having to realize that they were going through, a few hurdles here and there. So that tells a lot about you. You were concerned that something wasn't going right, and you needed to make findings, you had to make research to find solution to it. And that's how you've come up with this book, Cracking the Diaspora Code. Amazing. Now, in your book, in fact, is right here. I was so excited to get this book from Amazon. And when it finally delivered, I had a flip through and I realized you outlined 50 strategies for Nigerian and African entrepreneurs to sustain a thriving business. That's a lot, but could you just highlight a few pivotal strategies that are essential for success in the diaspora?
Out of the 50 strategies, I'm going to highlight 6, which I feel they're not my favorites, but I'll say are necessary for entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Number one is research. If you are venturing into any business, the first thing you need to do is to make a research. If you don't, make a research, you're going to fall short and you're going to, make mistakes in your business. Number 2 is community. You need to either build a community or join a community, because they're going to be more like a foot soldiers. They're going to help you to, ingrain your brand. The third one is testimonials. If you have a billboard out there and you have people talking about your brand, people talking about your brand will speak well than the billboard. I say testimonials is the new currency, because if people talk about your brand, if people speak well about your brand, definitely your brand is going to go far. And the fourth thing I'm going to talk about is collaboration. You need to learn how to collaborate, because if you don't collaborate with people, for instance, if you know that your brand is in a low side and you see another brand that has potential to push your brand, definitely you're going to leverage on theirs. It's going to help your brand. Another thing I need to highlight to is storytelling. If you want to sell something to me, you should not just tell me, okay, this is a good product, this cup is a good product, this cup is nice, or this pen is good. Tell me why I need to get this cup. I'm going to drink water for me. People buy things from emotions, like they need to feel it. If you tell them a story, if you tell them why they need to get this thing, even if they don't buy it from you, they go back home, begin to think about it. Yeah. So before you know, they go online and purchase. The last thing I need to talk about is consistency. Most times, most brands, when they start up, for instance, a business in the month of March, then when you come to their page in the months of June, July, they are doing food business. You come to their page in the months of September, they've changed to fashion business. We're not saying that yes, you could not diversify and do things, but definitely it takes time to grow. If you feel okay, yeah, it's not working, the next 3 months you've changed again.
And I think it's also about being known for something. That's what a lot of persons miss. If I know you for selling African wares, you should be consistent for me to know that this is your path. Let me just share a little story with you. I was looking for someone that does food business, right? And I got a few contacts. I'm very quick to say, let me see what they are doing on social media, because there's a case of distance here. So I might not be able to access your office, right? In the case where you have clients that are far away from you, that are in a different location, your office is your social media. I realized that the pin post are food posts. Same post with friends, vacation, and all of that. It has nothing to do with the business. And I'm thinking, what are your vacation photos doing on your business page?
Yeah. So there's one personal branding and business branding. If you have a business, you should try as much as possible not to put your personal brand into the business. Let people know your brand for you, what you sell because of you, but not, coming to your business page and begin to put fashion things. No, let that be in your own private page. Everything should revolve around what you're doing.
What you do. Perfectly said. We've been talking about the strategies that entrepreneurs can actually apply to their business for it to be a success. The one thing that we kind of dismiss is challenges. It's essential for us to acknowledge that entrepreneurs go through a lot of challenges or hurdles. There is the cultural difference, which you rightly mentioned in the beginning. And when you are in
Yeah.
a different environment, they have their laws. So there is also the regulatory hurdles. In your own opinion, what are some of the pressing challenges that entrepreneurs face today? And how does your book address these challenges?
Yeah, like I said previously, there's cultural differences, there's the pain points, there's the way people spend their money and connecting to the right audience. So most of these things are the challenges they face. And if you're not talking to the right audience, definitely you're not going to get the right people. So you need to know who you're talking to. You need to know who you're speaking to about your brand. So that's just it basically, because if you don't address these challenges that I've put up in the book, which I've spoken about, which I've talked about, the strategies, and talked about testimonial, talk about collaboration, talk about community and the rest. If you don't leverage on all these things, it's going to be very difficult for you to grow your brand. Yeah.
Okay, since you are having so much passion to see how you can help entrepreneurs, can you share an example of an African who has successfully expanded their businesses using some of the strategies outlined in your book? You can look at their business and say, I see what this person is doing is in line with the strategies that I outlined in my book. Is there any African you think is actually doing business successfully using these strategies?
Instead of talking about entrepreneurs, let me talk about the ones I've worked with or worked, for their brand.
Okay.
When I yeah Here in the UK, I've worked with D&D African restaurant. So I did a campaign for this brand, and I was able to leverage on entertainment and technology, to grow this brand. I created a campaign. It was called Flavor of Africa, doing Vox Pop, including this brand into the Vox Pop. We also did a QR code, quick response code. It's something like this. Someone sees this cup in your house. If you snap this QR code, it takes you directly to where the book is. This is one strategy most people don't know. So we're able to leverage on that. So we did a QR code for this brand, digital menu board for the brand as well. So these are just a few things we're able to do for them. The campaign lasted for 6 weeks. At the end of the campaign, we're able to do a survey to know how this campaign went. And I will tell you that the brand actually grew from not just their customer base, the income increased. They were the first brand that actually works with, in promoting brands in the UK.
That's interesting. So we can see how passionate you are about entrepreneurship and what you're trying to do for entrepreneurs just to ensure that they have a soft landing in the diaspora. Are there any entrepreneurs or leaders who have inspired your work?
First person I would say is Tony Elumelu. Is someone I've always been inspired by what he does, for a long time, and I've always followed his work from way back, and it's someone I kind of get inspiration from. When you have a mentor, when you have someone who inspires you, try to do something within that line. So he's into entrepreneurship. He helps entrepreneurs. That's one of the reasons to the level, the way I am now. I'm trying as much as possible to help entrepreneurs in the best way I could. For women, another person who I'm being inspired by her works is Sarah Filadrutoye. Yeah, Sarah Filadrutoye. So in one of my books, she had a contribution in the book. So it's someone who I've always been inspired by works for a very long time. So many of them too, but I think those two people are source of inspirations to me.
That's amazing to hear. So that's only Elumelu. If you're seeing this interview, if you're watching this podcast, know someone's being inspired by you and is doing great things. The beauty of life is doing something and realizing that other people are looking up to you. In fact, to even be better. One of the chapters that I find so interesting, where you title the testimonial quote. I find this chapter insightful. Okay. And I like to just read out a few things. You asked a very valid question to entrepreneurs. The question is, what do you think people are saying about your brand? That's a very valid question. And then you went on to list possible remarks. Number one, that the brand has poor customer service. They neither engage nor respond to customers. Number two, they offer low quality products and services. Number three, their delivery service is nothing to write home about. Number four, their marketing is so misleading, always offering false promises. Number five, they have a poor packaging and the items often get damaged in transit. There are actually businesses that tick all of these boxes and they don't care. They get all of these remarks, but they are not bothered. They just think, you know what, I'm just here to make money. What you say about me does not matter. It's none of my business, right? Now, what is even more interesting in this chapter is how you went on to establish that testimonials, consumer reviews, or client reviews are a powerful way to build trust. Please, can you discuss the importance of reviews and testimonials in building trust and driving business growth? I just need you to discuss this briefly and explicitly.
Thank you. Let me ask a question. If you want to buy something and you go to Amazon, let me say you want to buy a mug, and people are talking about, this mug. These people, their customer service is very poor. They don't respond. They have low quality. People are talking about their brands in negative way. Will you continue not talk of getting down to cart area and purchasing? No.
May I even confess to you that almost everything that I buy on Amazon, I go to the reviews first.
Exactly. So that's what customers do. They make their research. They look for reviews. And if they don't see all these things, they want to get it. Probably they just want to get maybe because, they just, there's no other option. They try to get it. But they ensure that they look for the reviews from people. They might have 10 people talking good about their brand, but it's just that one person can change that person's mind or that person's perception.
And even potential customers.
Yeah, testimonials are the new currency. Testimonials leads to referrals. When I was working with entrepreneurs, I started with adverts, Facebook, Instagrams, and the rest. At the point I stopped doing all those adverts. So most of the clients I got were more from people who were referring people to this brand. So if people say good things about your brand, definitely it will lead to referrals and you're going to have more customers. But people don't take testimonials serious. If you send a brand, for instance, you want to buy a wig, it takes them 1 week to respond.
What I do not understand is why you'd have a business phone that is not functional. I still cannot comprehend it. If you know you can't handle it as the owner of the business, get someone to handle that.
You delegate, exactly.
Exactly.
You can't be the manager, you can't be the salesperson, you can't be the brand, you can't be everything. No, they try to be everything. No, I don't need media. I'll be the media person. I need to be the salesperson. I need to be this. I need to. When you delegate, you get you. In fact, when you delegate, you make more money. Because imagine you taking 1 week to respond to someone who's going to give you a very good amount of pounds, or dollars, and you're taking time to respond to them. But when you have someone who is going to do that for you, you're going to get more people that are going to come into your brand. You're going to get more responses. You have quick responses. But you taking time, customers don't have that time to waste. Before they even contacted you, they've contacted someone else. And if you don't respond on time, they go to the next person. That's just the way it is. But most people don't understand this. And in the diaspora here, where everybody's in a hurry, people don't have that time to waste.
Yeah.
If you waste my time, next person. So people need to understand that testimonials, they're the new currency.
Exactly. And, just for us to expatiate on this, because this point is very important, I think a lot of people just get into business because they feel like going into business, or they feel, I just need to start selling something. And so they don't really take time to find the necessary information, get themselves very informed, and also improve themselves. Buy courses, go
Yeah.
for events, go for conferences where you're going to get all of this knowledge on how to handle clients. One interesting thing that I saw some time ago was a clip of Brian Tracy. Brian
Yeah.
Tracy is an author, is been in sales and marketing consultancy for a while, is consulted for over 1,000 companies. He understands how this thing works, or is a CEO. So he's had the experience. He was in a room with other people, and then he asked, "What do you think is the purpose of a business?" In my head, I'm thinking, to make money. The same response that the people in the gathering gave. They said to make money, because that's like the understanding of almost everybody. And he said, no, that's not the reason. The reason is to retain clients.
Yeah.
I just had a different perspective about business entirely. He said, it's to retain clients, because the more clients you retain, the more sales you're going to make. Because every client that you have would go back to say something about your business, something about your services. Let me give you an instance. I had an experience with a photographer 7 years ago. So I had a shoot and I contracted 2 photographers. I reached out to them. One person was about 3 hours away from the location. The other person was about 35 minutes away from the location. The person that was about 3 hours away from the location arrived first, prepared and ready for the shoot. And then the person that was about 30 minutes away from the location came late and reluctantly. Now that's years ago, and I still can't just erase that. It says a lot about how important testimonials, reviews are to every business. I'm not saying that all clients are perfect. Try to work on how you can deal with them amicably and avoid having anybody to say anything negative about your company, your services, because it's likely to limit the number of people that will actually patronize you.
Most times mistakes happens. Yeah. And you see one or two people speaking like negative about your brand. This is where PR comes in. And most brands don't understand the importance of PR. There's something PR can do to your brand. Even no matter how you sell, if you don't have a very good PR, for your brand, definitely, no matter how you sell, that's why I do tell people marketing, branding, and PR, they work together. They connect. You don't just, focus on only marketing, you leave brand. You don't just focus on branding and marketing and you leave PR. If people talk about your brand or talk negative about your brand, what are you going to do? You definitely not leave them there. You definitely work on it in the PR aspect.
A lot of people think that PR has to come in when you have problems. PR is necessary for your business even before the image of your business is at stake. You don't even need to wait till that point. PR is supposed to come in right from the beginning of a business to ensure that people have the right image about your business. But a lot of persons do not really understand this. Knowledge is power. The more you know, the more you're going to do things better.
Yeah.
We're living in a very fast-paced business environment presently.
Yeah.
So let's hear from you. What qualities do you believe that are vital for a successful entrepreneur?
Thank you. I would say number one, entrepreneurs need to have emotional intelligence. They need to, because most people don't know how to handle things. Just like we talk about, negative reviews, and you see entrepreneurs fighting with their clients, and that's not the right thing to do. Fighting with your customers. If you ask, it's something that could be handled with emotional intelligence. So that's one thing I would say entrepreneurs need to have. Then also they need to have this global mindset. They're not just selling in Africa or Nigeria, they're selling internationally. Because they're not just selling to the UK, they're not just selling to the US, they're selling to Asians too. They're selling to people around different continents. So they need to have this global mindset. And I would say brand clarity. You need to be clear about your brand. If you are selling wig, for instance, you need to be clear about, okay, this is what I'm selling. Everything that has to do with, this brand, the storytelling, you do your research, everything has to be clear. Your mission, your vision, your statements, everything needs to be very clear. I'll just wrap it up with like saying, okay, those three things entrepreneurs they need to have. There are a lot of things if I begin to list them, but those three things, they're the things that entrepreneurs need to have to help them in their businesses.
What final advice and practical tips would you offer to entrepreneurs, that are just beginning, not the ones that are possibly gain grounds? I'm talking about the ones that are just starting. What practical tips would you offer to them?
The first thing I would say, they need to make research if you want to get into any business. Even while you're in the business, you said something about going to events and learning. Those things has to do with research. That you need to dig deep. You need to know what other brands are doing. So you need to, because if you don't know what competitors are doing, you definitely not get your own business right. So if you know that okay, these people are doing well in this, these people are falling short in this, you leverage on it and try to make yours better. And you should ensure that you are consistent in what you're doing. Don't do week today. In next 2 3 months, you're tired of it. You go into fashion. Try to be consistent. I'm not saying that yes, you cannot diversify. Yeah. So if you are diversifying, you should ensure that none of these businesses suffer. You are consistent in every one of them. It's been an insightful session. As we wrap up, can you share a personal philosophy that resonates with you? What would you say is your personal philosophy? Yeah, my personal philosophy, if people have opportunity to see some of my old interviews that I've done maybe 15 years ago or something, there's one thing I do say every time. When writing the story of your life, let no one hold your pen. Ensure that you are the one holding the pen, writing the story of your life. It's not literally, taking pen, because some people might just, it's more like it's your journey. Yeah, your story. Like I said, I've always been the kind of person who love being behind the scene and try to push people. But in pushing people, I'm also pushing myself. So while I'm writing this book, a lot of people are telling me, this thing cannot work. But I was writing a story. I try as much as possible for people not to hold this pen. I kept pushing through. And when I saw the final, I'll call it my baby. And when it was birth, I was like, wow. And all those naysayers, all those people are like, I know it can't work. I actually proved them wrong that no. So try as much as possible, because you definitely get negative things from people. If you're the kind of person who one person just talks something negative about, and you're like, oh no, I don't think I'm going to do this, you're going to be stuck there. And in the next 5 10 years, you're going to be like, you wish you had done, what you didn't do. And in all of this, I'm saying, I've done so many things that I've actually failed in. But it's the success story people see. But when you're telling your story and you begin to talk about the failures, that's when people go, wow. I've done businesses that have actually failed. I've done, things that I've actually not done right. But the most important thing is pick yourself up and keep moving. And just keep moving. Every day is going to get better. Oh my God, this sinks in. Wow. Failures are part of your story. Yeah. And I tell people that I don't even see failures as failures. Because the truth about life is, if you do something and it doesn't work out, what happens? The next time you do it, you're not going to do it the way you did it at first, right? Yeah. Exactly. They are all lessons. This is just amazing to hear. When writing your story, do not let anyone hold the pen for you. It tells a lot about you owning your story, owning your journey. Thank you. We appreciate it for being on Straight Talk. We wish you the very best. We're looking forward to greater milestones. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end of this exciting episode. It's been very insightful. Thank you so much. If you are a new subscriber, you're welcome. If you're an old subscriber, thank you for staying with Straight Talk New York. And I hope that you enjoy the rest of your week. Just make sure that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel to get more of these episodes.